Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are going to allow a few more people to get logged in and we'll get started. So grab your lunch, your caffeine, and we'll get started in a few minutes.
Caffeine is a good thing. And I keep trying to figure out too, it's weird. I don't like the angle of my screen and all of that, Brooke and everyone else with glasses because it's always reflecting and I keep trying it and I haven't found out the perfect way to fix it.
They look fine. They look great. It's never bothered me before with your glasses. I don't wear glasses anymore. Knock on wood, not yet. But I did order the blue light reflecting glasses and they are like extremely reflective. So yours are not near as bad.
Yeah.
But when I'm doing a lot of work on my own, back and forth with multiple monitors, I definitely pull them on. Well, welcome everybody. We're going to give it just maybe one more minute to get people logged on. We were saying to grab your caffeine, your lunch, and we'll get started here in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, and please feel free, everyone, to in the chat box or Q&A to share with us, where you're calling in from, because we'd love to hear about that too, to kind of get the engagement going. Because
we had a lot of people register for today. I didn't run the report to see where everybody was logging in from, but we had over 100 people register for the event today.
Oh, good. That's fantastic. And so far, it looks like we've got Houston and Dallas so far.
Our strongholds.
Makes sense. And I'm calling in from Atlanta today. It's kind of cloudy and icky, but we have had, it's been like 75 still. It's just been a great fall in my book because I prefer it warmer.
Well, and somebody from Athens, Georgia is just down the road from you. There you go.
There you go. And Birmingham too. Yep. Love it.
We have the Southwest covered. Okay, everyone, I think we'll go ahead and get started. It's just 2 minutes after, and I know Hallie has a lot of information to cover. If you haven't joined us before with one of our career webinars with Hallie, this is Hallie Crawford. She's a renowned certified career coach, and we are so lucky to have her. She is a wealth of information from everything from restarting a career, changing careers, how to make yourself more visible professionally in the digital spaces. But today we've asked Hallie to join us to talk about leadership skills. And I think this is an ongoing conversation for anybody, no matter where they are in their professional career. And we have a lot of content to cover, and we'll have some resources available to you at the end. And I'm going to turn it over to Hallie. And I think we sent everybody your the documents in the Dropbox before. And if not, I'll go ahead and put that available to everyone in that Q&A, that chat box for everybody to reference while you do your presentation. So
that would be great. Awesome. Just helps you guys follow along. So thank you, Brooke, and TCU and everyone for being here today. Greatly appreciate your time. I know this is probably the millionth, Zoom or video conference that you've been on this year. And as we all know, it's going to be lasting for a little bit longer. So appreciate your time and excited to be here with you all today. So as Brooke said, so I'm Hallie Crawford. I am a certified career coach, speaker, and author, and a young voice. I'm actually 47. And we're going to be talking today about coaching skills specifically to help you enhance your leadership style and strengths. So 10 coaching skills every leader should master, especially during COVID, I would make the argument as well. Just wanted to do, just as an additional very quick introduction, and also to let you all know two quick things. So I started my company about 20 years ago. We have been coaching and training that whole time. We're absolutely passionate about what we do and love it. And we do know that a lot of people are going through difficult times in different ways because of COVID. So we are trying to put out a lot of extra information that is relevant and pertinent to working remotely on our career blog here at the top. So I just wanted to let you all know, if you feel like you need more advice related to this or anything else related to working remotely, et cetera, during COVID, Career Blog is a great place to go. Also connect with me on LinkedIn too, because like I said, we're trying to pump out as much information as possible. So here's our agenda for today, and we're going to dive in just a second to our first poll, get that engagement going. So first of all, I want to give you all just kind of a very basic, kind of quick definition of coaching so that you understand foundationally what we mean by coaching skills and have kind of a platform to stand on there. Then we're going to go through the 10 critical coaching skills that we feel are the most important for leaders to embrace wholeheartedly. And I would argue that even more so, this is critically important during COVID because we're working remotely. We don't have as much context, all of this, from water cooler talk, all of that that we usually have being in the office. So we're going to talk about those. Give you some suggested homework and action items, and then we will have time for Q&A at the end, just FYI too. So we've launched our first poll here, and I see several of you are already participating. That's great. So we're curious why you all are interested in developing coaching skills or leadership skills, because we're going to use those two words interchangeably. And while you're filling this out, we did want to let you know too that the webinar is being recorded, and you will get a copy of that. But if anyone would like a copy of our PowerPoint slides, happy to share those with you. Just email us at the email address on this page here, admin@halliecrawford.com. So we've got about 78%, give or take, who have voted so far, and so far it's more leadership roles is the highest one. Okay, great. So let's go ahead and share those results. So highest one is leadership roles, which makes sense. Dealing with difficult coworkers or employees. Just by the way, the tools and tips we're going to be giving you today will be relevant for those situations too. You can use coaching skills to help diffuse difficult situations and kind of smooth things out a little bit. And also for those of you who are a new leader, it goes for all of the above, just FYI, okay? So keep in mind what your unique situation is and think about how you can leverage these tools in a way that makes sense for you given, the challenges that you're dealing with now. So I already talked a little bit about this, so we're not going to go into too much detail with the COVID thing, but as all of you, I'm sure, are experiencing, leadership skills are that much more important. As leaders, we need to provide as much peace, calm, hope, and support to coworkers and employees as much as we can, because we are all a little bit more frantic because kids are home from school, virtual learning, et cetera. We're a little bit more stressed out. Some people don't work from home as well as others. They can't stay as organized, for example. And there's fewer boundaries. Like now everything's kind of blended together at home too, which causes or adds to the stress. As a result of COVID as well, people feel disconnected from each other. We've had so many clients say, I don't feel like I'm part of my team as much anymore, and I miss my coworkers. And other clients are saying, I realized that I don't actually like my job as much. I liked the people I worked with, and now I don't get to see them, so I'm feeling less fulfilled. It's harder for us as a leader to provide context and, because we don't have that in-person communication and the just natural water cooler talk, or you can't just stop by somebody's office and, just have a casual conversation. It is a little bit harder to exhibit these leadership skills. And so one of the bottom line kind of things I want you all to take away from today is we need to be much more proactive about our communication, about explaining things, providing context to people as leaders. And we just have to make more of an effort to do that on a consistent and more structured basis. It's possible to do it, but it just takes a little bit more work on our part. So we need to think about how to lead as leaders in general, but also how to lead remotely more effectively too, given that this is going to last for however much longer. So really quick introduction to coaching. Let's get into our first agenda item here. So the way we want you to think about coaching and introducing coaching skills into your style as a leader is basically coaching in its truest, purest form it's supposed to be about helping someone learn something to improve their performance. Learn it on their own, ideally, if possible. It's not about telling people what to do, issuing instructions. It's more about helping someone, showing them how to figure something out, giving them feedback, or explaining or encouraging them in some way, shape, or form. So the bottom line with coaching in an ideal world is it's supposed to be about asking the right questions or being a cheerleader for someone or providing additional context, but not just doing something for them or explaining exactly how to do it. And the best sense of it, coaching helps other people learn how to do something or learn an answer to something on their own, okay? So basically what it is and what it isn't is it's supposed to be a method to provide guidance to professionals. Again, not just telling them what to do all day long. It's supposed to empower others to help them find their own answers. And if they do that, they're going to be that much more engaged and have skin in the game, right? Coaching is not therapy, but when you are a leader, as we all can, relate to, I'm sure, feelings can come up. And so you need to be prepared for how to deal with those feelings because they may need to be addressed at least in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just flat out listening to somebody or allowing them to vent, okay? And finally, coaching is not technically supposed to be consulting, but as we all know, as leaders and as bosses and managers, et cetera, we do need to use consulting at some times and just tell someone this is how we need to do this and give the answer and make a decision, okay? So let's talk next about the 10 critical coaching skills that we would like you all to consider to start implementing or employing as part of your leadership style and strengths as a leader and kind of adding to your toolbox. Now, as we go through all of these together, you will probably realize that you're better at some of them already than others. So keep in mind and take notes for us on the ones that you feel you need to improve the most. And maybe a new perspective on the ones that you feel you already do a good job with. So let's look through these just really quickly, and then we'll keep moving. One of the things we want to talk about is creating what we call a safe space for people. So trying to create a space or an environment where people feel free to share, provide feedback, ask questions, and they're not afraid to do those things, where there's that open, hopefully honest, kind of direct communication. The next thing is effective listening. The third thing is how to guide people, not just always advise them by asking the right questions, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a few minutes. Self-management and how critical that is, especially when we're feeling frustrated or upset or stressed. How can we be a good leader to others, and how we can practice that self-care and manage our own emotions that may be going on. And looking at and employing curiosity, again, asking the right types of questions versus just charging in like a bull in a china shop and telling someone what to do, asking questions to elicit feedback and thoughts. And then finally, we'll talk a little bit about leveraging your intuition, how to use action and learning as a leader to help people grow as professionals and develop. And then finally, empathy and how important that is as a leader, especially during these times, recognizing other people's strengths and leveraging those more effectively, and also developing your own unique leadership strengths. And we have a leadership wheel we want you to take a look at. So let's look at our first one. And this is what we would call creating a safe and courageous space. And this is coaching language, okay? And what we mean by safe and courageous is safe that people feel okay asking questions or providing feedback, that there's that sense of, comfort, and it's okay to do that, being direct and open with your communication. But also we say courageous because we want people to feel comfortable, again, like disagreeing with something if they feel that's needed, if they feel like there's something that needs to be changed or adjusted, or asking a question, even if it's kind of a tough question to be asking, okay? So one of the things we want to ask you to think about, and we'll get to this in our second poll here in just a moment, is we want you to think about what makes you as a person and as a professional be willing to be open with someone at work, okay? Be willing to share your opinion or your thoughts or ask a question. So we want you to noodle on that. And as part of this, we want to start you out with some of the ways to create this kind of culture or the correct space as a leader that you'll be able to have these really good dialogues with people. So take a look at this first slide here and our bullet points here. The first thing we want you to think about when you're having any kind of conversation or even in a team meeting, whether it's one-on-one or in a group, do you need to have the conversation be confidential? This is something that you want to be thinking about every once in a while if it's something that's necessary, because we don't always think of this. And if you feel like someone is hesitating to ask you a question or give you feedback, they seem hesitant, let them know, hey, or ask them, does this need to be confidential? Okay, it's kind of like off the record with the press, okay? So confidentiality is something that will help people feel a little bit more comfortable to share. The second thing that we want you to do, and we want leaders to do a little bit better job of, is we want them to be better about creating this safe space and sense of trust, et cetera, by explaining what your style is as a leader, what your strengths are and what your desires are, okay? So I'll give you a quick example. So one of our clients, she had moved from one position to another, got a new job at a new organization, and she realized as a leader that she was the type of person at her old job that she didn't get too stressed out when there was a deadline coming up and there was, a lot coming down the pipeline. She was, calm in the water, cool as a cucumber type of person. She took things in stride really well. But what happened as a result is her bosses and sometimes her employees would think that she didn't care as much about the work, or that it wasn't, she didn't get the sense of urgency about what was going on with a project. So what we talked to her about doing in her new job is explaining to them right up front, saying, look, I just want you to know this is the type of person and leader I am. I'm not going to run around with my hair on fire. I tend to be very calm under pressure. Please take that as a good thing and as a strength and lean on me during those times. So as much as you can, teach people how you are or who you are as a professional. And if you're more introverted than extroverted, for example, let them know you may not talk as much during a meeting, but you may need to follow up with them about more because you need to ponder things. So educate others about who you are as a professional, as a leader, because then they will know what to expect and why you're coming across in a certain way. Another way to clear goals for every conversation you have and every meeting you have with people. And don't assume that they're always clear. Make sure that they're really clear in advance and have an agenda in advance. And especially during these times working remotely and all of, everything that's going on, I would encourage you all as leaders to take a little bit more time to check in with people at the very beginning of your calls. How are you doing? What's going on? Just let them kind of express any frustrations or feelings they may have. During these times, we need to do a little bit more of that to create that safe space to let them know that you actually care, okay? So if we can do the second poll here, Brooke, that would be fantastic. We're curious as to what you all thought about, what makes you more able to or willing to be vulnerable with someone. And as you're doing this, we'll talk a little bit about these bullet points here in just a second too. And by the way, with this poll, you could have another answer that is, different, and you might say there's a completely different thing. And if there is another answer you have to this poll, please feel free to share that in the Q&A box. We'd love to see additional ideas come through too. All right, so trust is so far the highest. All right, good. I think trust is going to win out. Okay, great. Good. Thank you, Brooke, for handling those. And thank you, everyone, for participating. So we've got trust as the biggest one, but a very close second is them being open with me. Wanted to give you a quick example, and then we'll move to our second tip here after we talk about the items on this slide. So I was working with a senior level executive and business owner out in Idaho several years ago. And he realized, it was many years into his business, but he realized that he was starting to create a culture accidentally that people were a little bit intimidated by him. He was a really big guy, big personality, and just was a very direct communicator. And it's not like he was a jerk or anything, but he got this feedback from some people over time that they felt like he knew everything and almost like he was untouchable. So one of the things that he did, which goes to them being open with me and also helps establish trust, is he started to share some of the mistakes that he had made in his early career, to let them know that he wasn't perfect either, that he had struggles along the way as well. And it started to change the culture of his organization over time enormously. So be willing to share any challenges or weaknesses that you have with people as a leader, because that's not always going to be the type of thing that's, making you look like you can't do your job. It's about sharing challenges and struggles that you've had, even if it's in the past, to let them know you're human, okay? As part of creating this safe space, one of the things that you want to consider doing with each of your employees and coworkers and even your boss is, as much as possible, you want to structure your relationship with them in the right way. We talked a minute ago about letting them know how you work most effectively. If you're more introverted, extroverted, all of that, right? But we also want you to do a better job of structuring, how can we work together more effectively? How often should we be meeting during this remote working time? Does meeting over the phone and video work best for you, or is it better for you to do emails related to this specific project? Don't just go into the work all the time and assume that your way works for everyone else. Ask people, how do they work most effectively, and ask a lot of questions, okay? So that you can kind of design or redesign your relationship together for greater effectiveness. When you're having meetings, gut check the energy of the room. When it's on video calls, this can seem a little bit different, but you can still do so. Pay attention to people's facial expressions and nonverbals. And if there's something that you need to call out, speak to it. If you need to give someone difficult or touchy feedback because something's not going as well and you need to have a conversation with them that is open and honest, tell them in advance that you need to talk about something touchy. Hey, I need to chat with you about something that may be a little bit difficult to hear. Is that okay with you? Can we do that right now? This helps structure the relationship and design your communication in a better way. Lean on asking questions of people even more so during this time, to not just find out how they are, but again, find out how they work most effectively and if they're having any challenges working remotely. And let them know when you're designing feedback or designing their relationship or your relationship with them, let them know that you'd like to give them some feedback and want to make sure that you do it in the right way. What is the best way for them? And at the end of each of our virtual meetings especially, we need to do a really good job of reviewing our action items and making sure that everybody is clear about who is accountable for what. So more structure is the bottom line. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, going back to your previous slide, we did have someone share something in regards to the poll question about what makes you most willing to be vulnerable and open with someone. And they said that whether or not they think their feedback actually matters. And if they trust someone and know that their thoughts maybe don't ultimately matter, then they won't really feel, engaged or, want to share.
Yeah, you guys can't. The person is saying maybe, and thank you for saying this, that maybe you aren't able to make a change, and so the feedback doesn't matter. So I would totally understand this, and I would challenge you to a couple of things. Number one, do you need to go a little bit higher up in order to express what's going on and what the needs are? Now, again, this would be going around your boss, so you want to be mindful and thoughtful about that. But it may be something that you need to talk to someone else about or talk to HR about confidentially. And then secondly, I would also consider if this organization where you are is the right place for you to be. If there are constant problems and the feedback is not going to be listened to or, heeded, it may be that you decide, once everything clears and COVID gets better, et cetera, that this may not be the best fit for you organization-wise. And we would be happy to talk with you a little bit more offline about that too. One of the things that we're going to offer everyone is a quick consult strategy session to ask any other detailed questions, but also learn more about our coaching too. Those were the two things I would be thinking about first off though, okay? Great question. Thank you for mentioning that, because yes, feedback is not always welcomed and it's not always listened to, absolutely. So as a leader, this is where one of the best things you can do is try to encourage that, at least within your own area and department, so that if nothing else, you're making a change within where you are and practicing that. And then, okay, if you decide to move on to a different organization in the long run, that would be completely understandable given that. great question. Let's talk about tip number 2, and this is the 3 levels of listening. So in coaching, we have 3 levels of listening. I'm sure you all have heard before effective listening. We all get it, okay? So we won't go into too much detail about these first 2, but I did want you to just quickly define them. So level 1 listening is our internal listening. I'm hungry. This meeting is boring. Why is this person saying this? We all need to have that because we have to check in with our needs. But the goal is, as a leader, to practice level 2 and 3 listening more so than the level 1. This is focused listening. It's focused on the other person, paying attention to their nonverbals too and what they're not saying to you, okay? And calling them out a little bit, even if it's one-on-one after a group meeting, not right in front of people necessarily, but checking in with them. What's going on? Do you need to, do you have a question about something, okay? So instead of always being in level 1 and thinking about the next thing that we're going to say to a person, which I know we're all guilty of, we want to be in levels 2 over there with them, but also in level 3 as well, which we would call global listening. And this is what the energy is like between the 2 of you or in the group. Is it tense? Is it stressful? And you need to do something like, hey, guys, let's take a break for a minute and pick up with this topic tomorrow so that you can diffuse things a little bit, for example, how that mood or tone is changing. And this is where your intuition is going to come into play about what may be going on within your group that you need to speak to and what may be going on with this other person or between the 2 of you that in an ideal world you can kind of call out, even if it's like in baby steps to improve things. The way to get into level 3 listening is to quiet yourself down, like still your body, and even talk a little bit more slowly than you would have otherwise. We're all kind of racing from, one video conference to another. And if you take a few minutes to prepare for the call in advance, but also take a few breaths and slow your thinking and your talking down a little bit more, this will help you kind of have a better gut check with how everyone's doing in the group and if there are changes that need to be made. In some cases, it's okay to interrupt people and say, hey, can you hold on for 1 second? I think we need to table that conversation. Can we bookmark that for our next meeting, for example, okay? And then in some cases, when we slow down, and let's go ahead and do our 3rd poll here, Brooke, if we could, about listening. In some cases, when we slow ourselves down, we are more likely to ask a question rather than just rushing into giving advice or telling someone what to do. And that can be a lot more powerful and empowering as well. So let's do our 3rd, and this is our final poll. We've got them up here at the front here today about effective listening skills. And I do want you all to kind of use the 3 levels of listening that we just talked about in order to evaluate how good your listening skills are, just FYI. And as we do this poll, I'm going to share this next slide here because there is a really good listening scale and worksheet that we like to give to our clients that is quick, easy, free, that can help you identify where your listening skills are strong and where you may need to improve. All right, so we're getting up there. Great. So we've got 71% think they do a good job with this. 29 no. Thanks for sharing this. That's great. I would encourage you all to do the listening scale because this is an active empathic listening scale. And here's what I found. Even when our clients tell us, oh, I'm great at listening, all of that, there's usually at least 1 or 2 things, and I'm the same way, right? So I can say that. There's usually 1 or 2 things that they actually can improve upon a little bit more based on this evaluation and assessment. So one of the things to be thinking about for homework too is to do this scale, but also slowing yourselves down and really taking an extra moment to listen when our gut instinct may be, okay, let's move on to the next thing. Ask a question, take another moment to listen, see what that gets you, and if it gives you more information from the person than you may have gotten otherwise. All right, let's look at tip number 3, and this is the idea of guiding people, not advising or telling them what to do. Powerful questions are a tool that we leverage as coaches all day long. And basically, powerful questions are curious questions. They are open-ended, kind of childlike in a way. There's no judgment in them, which sometimes that can be hard for us as humans, right? But it allows the employee to experiment with their own answers, because the bottom line with powerful questions is that they're open-ended. They are not yes or no. So you can't answer yes or no to a powerful question. And here are some examples at the bottom. How can we work together more effectively? What do you want, or what do you need to achieve or want to achieve with this project? What's another choice you could make here? What do you need? How can I help you with this particular task? So what I want you to notice about powerful questions, everyone, is two things. Number one, a lot of times we ask yes or no questions. I think it's just kind of ingrained in us as humans. So I'd like you all to practice with these. And it's interesting because when we've done these in the past with live workshops and we have people practice with each other, it's really interesting because you'll see people start to ask a question and then realize, oh, it's going to go to a yes or no, so I need to pull back a little bit and they need to reframe. It's not always that easy to ask these types of questions. So it may seem easier said than done. I encourage practice with it, okay, because it isn't always the case. The second thing that's really great about powerful questions is that it assumes a positive outcome. So look at these questions here at the bottom. It assumes that we can work together more effectively. There's no room for saying, no, I don't like you, it's not going to work, right? So powerful questions are fantastic as well because they assume a positive outcome and don't allow to go into that, negative rabbit hole as much, okay? So really great coaching tool that we would encourage you to leverage a lot as leaders because it will empower other people to come up with their own answers, come up with a solution, but it will also show them that you care, and it creates that sense of empathy that we'll talk about a little bit more in a moment that builds that sense of trust with your team, okay? Let's talk next about self-management, and the goal is to not be like this guy at the bottom from the movie. I think it was The Office or Office Space. I cannot remember, probably aging myself here a little bit. But anyway, Office Space, thank you. That's what I thought, because The Office is the TV show, which, yeah, my 12-year-old son is starting to watch. It's like coming back with young kids. It's funny. So tip number 4 is self-management. And as I'm sure you can all understand, especially during these times of working remotely, it's really critical. Our dog barking and interrupting us. Our kids are walking around in the background. All of this stuff really just adds to our sense of stress and frustration and all of that. So especially if, for example, you're having a difficult time managing an employee who's underperforming or is being difficult during these times, it just adds to the plate. So in terms of self-management, we wanted to give you a couple of tips here. So number 1 is, as much as you can, with self-management and having a difficult conversation with someone or just a conversation in general, the listening skills are going to help. Really make an effort to stay present in the conversations that you're having with each person, whether it's over the phone or on video. Like, be mindful of staying present instead of thinking about the 10 other things you have to do later today or the 3 things that aren't getting done right now or what you want to say next in the conversation. As much as possible, slow yourself down to stay present. And then we would actually recommend very highly the books about emotional intelligence. This is one of the examples here. And increasing and learning about emotional intelligence, the joke, or I shouldn't say it's a joke, but kind of the running thing that people will say is that EQ matters just as much as IQ. And paying attention and even just reading one of these short and sweet, easy emotional intelligence books can really help you get a better handle on where you need to kind of manage and leverage your self-management tools and give you some additional tools to manage not just the negative emotions, but positive emotions as well. And by the way, too, reading one of these books can help you give advice to your employees about what they can be doing to help manage their stress level, et cetera. So getting a little bit better about your own emotional intelligence is not just helpful for you, but you can share that wisdom with others as well. All right, let's talk about tip number 5, and this is a skill of curiosity, and we touched on this one already a little bit with the powerful questions concept. One of the things that we want you to be mindful of, though, too, with your questions, but this also goes back to self-management as well, is be careful when you feel yourself judging someone else or making an assumption or formulating an opinion about what may be going on with them or what the right thing is to do, okay? Staying present with that person, not thinking about your own stuff like we said too. And obviously, as a leader and decision maker, we have to offer our opinion when it's appropriate, of course. I'm not saying don't do that. But with one of our clients, using her as a quick example, who was really frustrated with her boss at the time, we took a few minutes to push aside her assumptions and self-manage and get curious about her boss a little bit more. And we asked her, okay, so what's her background? What is her age? What's her living situation, et cetera? And she realized that by thinking about this for just a few minutes, putting herself in this woman's shoes, that the woman may have been a little bit lonely at the time, and that's why she was spending more time at work, and maybe was a little bit more of a micromanager because she had a little bit more time on her hands, et cetera, et cetera. And once this client got curious about this other person versus making these assumptions and going into judgment or opinion, she was able to calm down and understand where she was coming from a little bit more, which helped diffuse their communication enormously. So curiosity and trying to understand where someone else is coming from is really important and good, because we don't know what's going on with other people. We don't know. We always assume that it has something to do with us, or we take things personally, but you just never know what's going on with someone in the background. And it really does behoove you to try to take a moment and get curious about what may be going on for them. As part of this, let's talk about tip number 6, and this is intuition. Intuition can help you try to understand where someone else is coming from or what may be going on in their home life that may be impacting their work life, for example, or vice versa. But we want you to start to regularly check in with your intuition a little bit more. And this all goes back to the slowing down. But as part of this, check in with your intuition. Listen to what people are not saying to you, what they might be wanting to say, but they're not. And start to get more comfortable with sharing your intuition as long as it's non-judgmental and without attachment. And when we talk about intuition with our clients, we tell them it's okay to say hey, I have a gut instinct about this. I might not be right, but can I just share that and see if, it gets us anywhere? So especially if you're stuck on a problem, you think there's some sort of issue, you can always kind of diffuse sharing your intuition, but with a caveat at the beginning. Hey, I'm not sure if this is right. This is just a gut instinct, but I wanted to share it just in case. It could be a feeling, it could be just words that are coming to your mind, or an analogy that you want to use to, again, either help solve a problem or just clear the air about something. So regularly check in with your intuition a little bit more. I think at work we rely so much on our intellect, which makes sense. We're supposed to do that, but we want to get back a little bit more to our gut instinct too and kind of have both work together. Tip number 7 in terms of leadership skills is we want you to think about not just the action, kind of take the long view with your employees and your coworkers, not just always focus on what is the action we need to take right now based on this project and for next week, et cetera, but we want you to work on taking the long view of, okay, what are the action items that we need to take now that will help pave the way for success later on? And be willing to suggest those action items too. Take a bigger picture view of what you all are doing at all times, not just get into the weeds. Also, consider providing accountability or asking someone if they would like accountability for whatever it is they're working on. You don't just need to now, do it necessarily. It's a good idea to ask them, hey, would you like some accountability on this? Or how can I help provide that accountability to you? And then the last thing we wanted you all to consider as part of action and learning too is that sometimes these powerful questions or our action items aren't something that we need to go do. Sometimes it's something that we need to think about and ponder and noodle on. We can't always make the right decision in the moment. It's okay to kind of push the decision making for a few more days if that's possible with a particular deadline that you're working up against. But consider this as well, that sometimes action items, and very useful ones, can be to kind of think about something and ponder it so that you all have had a chance to sit with it, because you may come up with a brand new perspective in the next meeting, for example. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I wanted to just mention this really quickly again. If any of you, if we don't get to your question at the end today, if you have a question that comes up later on, we're happy to answer that too. And if you'd like to set up a few minutes to chat with us about our coaching services, but also get some additional advice from what we're talking about today to any situation you're dealing with, just email us at admin@halliecrawford.com. Happy to do that with you, no problem. All right, so let's talk about our last 3 tips here, the 10 skills. So we're on number 8, is this sense of empathy. And I already gave an example of empathy, asking those, kind of curious questions and going into curiosity. As we all know, empathy is this experience of understanding where someone else is really coming from and imagining ourselves in their shoes. And this is something that we have found is so critically important, especially during this time of remote working, because of everything that's going on. As leaders, we need to express more empathy. We've had clients, their bosses will schedule a happy hour on a Friday at the end of the day so everyone can kind of connect and get to know each other better, but just feel like a team, all the way to more regular coffee chats or meeting with people that we are concerned might be struggling. And as part of this empathy piece, we did want to share with you, this is a model from the Gallup organization, which is the organization that owns the StrengthsFinder assessment. I'm sure some of you have heard about that before. So this is their model that represents the 4 needs of followers. And when we say followers, in this case, it's basically anyone who is part of an organization. So, CEO all the way down. But one of the things as a leader we really need to pay attention to is how are and if these needs are being met for the people that are working for us and with us. Because it is critically important for everyone to have this sense of trust with their coworkers and employees, their boss, and their organization, ideally too. We all need to have a sense of stability, like things are going to be okay, as much as, our leaders can say during this time. We all want to have a sense of that our employees, but actually more so our bosses and our organization, cares about us. And then finally, we all need to have a sense of hope. Our organization has a vision. They're moving towards it. I believe in that vision. We will get there, et cetera, et cetera. So the reason why I bring this up is because if you are struggling with a difficult employee or coworker, one of their needs may not be being met, and that is why they are struggling and being difficult and having a hard time. And also, as a leader, we feel that it's critically important to provide these 4 things as much as you can during this time to the people who work for you. You need to make sure and work towards creating a safe space with trust. You need to give them a sense of, things are going to be okay. Even if you don't know that they're going to totally be okay, that let them know, give them reassurance on a regular basis. Ask them questions about how they're doing, gives them that compassion, and make sure that every time you're meeting with the people on your team, you're giving them that sense of hope. And this is the vision that we're working towards. These are the goals we're trying to work on. So they have that big picture context of where you guys are going, and they have something to look towards and latch on to, okay? So tips number 9 and 10, so those were having empathy and kind of checking in with people with the 4 needs of followers. Oh, and let me just say this really quickly. Sorry, guys, let me go back. One of our clients who worked at a healthcare consulting firm, she was actually here in Atlanta. When we shared this with her, she was like, oh my gosh, I realize now why there's a breakdown in so many areas of my organization, because the organization isn't providing 3 of these things. It can just be so insightful to not just think about it for you as a leader, but also to think about where does your organization as a whole do a good job and where does it fall down and where could you try to help fill in the gaps. Okay. Tip number 9 is to recognize other people's strengths and play to those strengths. Assign people to the right role on your teams that plays to their strengths. Don't try to get somebody to do something that they're not good at. And if someone is struggling, ask them and talk with them about, is this something that you feel you have a strength in, or do we need to adjust it in some way? This also, I like the Gallup organization, and so this is also from them as well. It's the sign model that basically outlines and shows us how do we know when someone is exhibiting a strength. When they're being successful about it or successful in something, obviously that's a strength. But also when you notice that they kind of feel like they're being effective too, they're kind of lit up a little bit. When they seem to have an instinct for it, or they're always volunteering for this one type of project, that means that they're playing to or wanting to leverage a strength. When you see them grow as an employee, that's a sign of they're leveraging one of their strengths consistently in a specific area. And then finally, the needs are, after they've done it, if they really feel jazzed and excited, then they're playing to a strength. If they don't feel jazzed after a particular project or task, that's a clue that that may not be the right thing that they should be doing. And I realize that we can't all just go change our jobs tomorrow. I understand that. But if at least you can have a little bit of a conversation to say, okay, how is this going? Is there a different strength that you want to be leveraging? And is this one that we should change up a little bit for you if possible? Okay? Recognizing your team's strengths and plugging them into the right place and leveraging or enabling them to leverage their strengths is going to make them not just happier, but obviously more effective too. It'll be both, okay? And then finally, tip number 10, and we have a leadership wheel here next, and then we'll do Q&A. We want you to think about your leadership style as not just your hard skills of I'm great with, this type of software or analysis or whatever it is, but we also want you to think about your soft skills as a leader. Are you great with conflict management or change management? And what is your style too? Are you more introverted or extroverted, creative or structured? Because again, this will help you identify what your style is, leverage it more effectively, and as we said earlier, explain to people what your style is so that they understand how to work with you more effectively, okay? So the more you can articulate and communicate your leadership style to others and explain what it is to them, the better off you're going to be, okay? So this is our leadership wheel, and it's the top 10 leadership skills. And I apologize, just ignore this content. Johnson 360 is one of a career assessment that some of you may be familiar with. What I want you to think about here, this is from Development Dimensions International, which is a very highly regarded management consulting firm. These are the top 10 leadership skills that they assert are the most important in today's marketplace, okay? So one of the things that you can do is you can rank yourself on each of these areas, these 10 leadership skills, to start to identify some places where you excel. And that goes into, okay, these are things that I do well. It's part of my leadership style, but also places where you could improve, okay? Now, when you're doing this, a couple of things. We would encourage you, number one, to rank yourself in all areas, but keep in mind that some of them may not be as relevant to your role. Just skip those if that's the case. Number two, we would love it if you would have your employees and or your boss rank you on these too so that you get some objective feedback. We find that is really helpful, okay? Because sometimes we make an assumption about how we are, and it would be good for us to get that objective opinion. All right, so we have a few minutes to do Q&A. So let's go ahead and get to that part here. So a couple of things I want you all to think about. So please ask any questions that you have right now in the Q&A box, and Brooke will help me kind of moderate those. As a reminder, if you do have other questions later on, we'd be happy to respond to those. Just shoot us an email. Even if it's weeks later, we totally get it. But as part of what we want you all to do during this time too is write down one action step that you will take in the next week. Keep it baby steps here. I know we shared a lot with you. You don't have to try all of these things all at once. Pick out one or two that seems like the most useful for your role and your situation. It could be filling out the leadership wheel. It could be completing the listening scale, the free career strategy session, like we said. So we'd love for you all to write those down, get out your pen and paper, and then also please feel free to share any action steps if you would like to help you with accountability in the Q&A box too. That would be fantastic as well. So I'm going to take a break here for a moment. A lot of talking, I know.
Great. Thank you, Hallie, so much. Great information. We've got a comment and some questions coming in. So your friend from down the road in Athens said that at UGA and the essential development, they utilize the DISC assessment. with their frontline fundraisers. So
yeah, DISC
she
is
said,
great
great.
too. There's so many good out there. That's awesome.
Yeah, she gave you a great presentation. So
Thank
the
you.
other question we have coming in is, what are some of the best traits to start with when encouraging my team to develop their own leadership skills?
Great question. Love it. So one of the things that I would start with is to help your team, even if they kind of already know, just make sure they're really clear on what their own strengths are. So I would start with the STEIN model, for example, and have them kind of go through that and try to identify what their top 5 strengths are. And not just think about their top 5 strengths in general, but as a leader, okay? And then the second one, I like all of them, of course. The second one I would really encourage people to do and leverage is the powerful questions. So if I had to pick those 2, I would do the strengths and having them practice powerful questions, because I think it's a really big deal. It just changes the tone of your conversations with people. It helps you come across in the right way, which is enormously valuable there too. So those would be the 2.
And Hallie, was that the SIGN model?
Yes, the
Okay,
SIGN model, that is the success, the instinct, the growth, and the needs. Yep, the SIGN model, the strengths. And that's something that I think you can even just Google it and, download it. But again, feel free to ask us for the presentation. And that one I think is an easy enough one for people to use to say, okay, what are the times when I do feel excited and when I feel like I'm growing as a professional too. It'd be an easy thing for them to fill out.
So here's a question for myself. Thinking about those powerful questions, how do you, you mentioned that making them in a positive light. How do you not seem, I don't know, just like blindly optimistic? Like, how are we going to get this impossible project done? Like, how do you not seem like, oh man, why are you asking us to do this? There's just no way. How do you not seem like we are going to go to the moon?
Yeah. So here's the deal, right? It's a great question. Is you don't use them all the time, right? So they're good to stimulate conversation, feedback, action items, all of that. So number one, don't use them, all day long, because otherwise, then you'll just be annoying in general, right? Because people will be like, dude, okay, back off. But the second thing to do is you can always have a caveat with them. Like, I know this is really hard, that I'm not sure where we're going to land with this project, and I think we all know that. But let's take a few minutes to brainstorm how it could be possible. So if we assumed that it were possible, how would it be possible? And let's, take 5 minutes to just think about that for a moment. So use the powerful questions in context of other things, and that's how it will help. Does that answer?
Yeah, no, I think that absolutely. You created some empathy and then kind of created a safe space to share some ideas.
Good.
Another question coming in, aside from developing trust and confidence in a team, what strategies or tools would help heal great performers from a toxic leader?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it happens all too often, unfortunately, toxic leaders. So I would employ the asking them questions about how they're doing, what you can do to support them, how can you be a good manager for them, what their needs are, and be just really direct about that. I would also pay a lot of attention to the 4 needs of followers that we talked about earlier too. So based on what happened to them with the toxic leader, what is lacking for them? Oh, I just don't have any hope anymore, but I've got trust and I've got, see if you can kind of ask them questions that relate to those 4 needs to see if one of those pieces, which is still missing. And then that can help you identify, okay, what do I need to put in place to help them out with it? And honestly, give them time and space too, and just be really focused on building that trust again, being open with them and vulnerable with them as well, and sharing kind of struggles that you've had. That's going to be a huge thing too. Great question.
That is a really good question. I think as leaders, unfortunately, I feel like we've all been I don't know, at one time or another faced with that. I know from
Yeah.
a previous role, once upon a time, I was leading a team, and their previous leader, they really felt, didn't fulfill all those four squares. And one of the things, whether this is right or wrong, I was younger in my leadership skills, but an employee, I finally shared, I said, I can't make you happy. And kind of putting that, and it wasn't like I wasn't trying. It was like, I can't change you. And not that I was asking her to change, we were doing all these other steps to, create connection on the team, but really kind of trying to connect with her and her own feelings. So,
Yeah. Yep. And that's where we talked about at the beginning. While it's not therapy, sometimes being a leader does bleed into that a little bit, and we have to hold people accountable, and we have to ask them to try on a different perspective for a few minutes, and what would you be doing if this were the case? So absolutely. And I find too, just as kind of a final thought, is that it takes time, like I've noticed that even though, for example, with my team and staff and my company, I've told them forever since the get-go that I am really open to direct feedback, and I appreciate it. It's still taken them a while to believe me. Like people just, they tread lightly with stuff. So realize that it's going to take you many, many times of saying things over and over before people really get it and change their behavior. And that's okay. It's not like you've done anything wrong.
Yeah. We've had another question come in here. I've been through several leadership trainings focusing on personality types, Myers-Briggs, etc., both of leaders and team members. What is your view on the value of recognizing and accommodating team members' skill differences, like varying levels of extroversion or detail orientation? That's a great question.
Yeah, it is really, really good. So the first thing I would do as a short answer, first step, and I'm looking at the question as I'm talking here, is being aware of what those are, you being really clear. And for example, when you meet with each of those people one-on-one or even in a group, you can have at the top of like your own agenda or your own notes, like what their different strengths are, so that when you're speaking with them in a team or one-on-one, you're playing to those a little bit more. You're recognizing them and adjusting your style and your answers based on it. So for example, we did a manager's workshop using StrengthsFinder a few years ago, and every time they would go meet with one of their salespeople and go on the road with them, they had their strengths results with them. And they would review it really quickly before that meeting, and they would be like, okay, this is how I need to adjust to this person. This is how I motivate them, et cetera. And it really helped a lot because they were getting, more immersed in what that is. So it's a big deal. Make sure that you create teams that are diverse and that you're also asking people to play to their strengths and, like we said before, not do things that it's going to be harder for them.
But it's not also something to use as an excuse. Like, one of the different, I can't remember what it was called, but there were colors evaluating, your personality and your strengths, and, team members saying, well, it's just how I am. I'm a red. You just have to accept that this is, it's like, well, I'm a red, so I'm going to go ahead and say this. Or it was kind of using it as an excuse to continue down the, the dark side of a strength or a personality trait. So.
Yeah, so it's good to acknowledge it, but you also have to rein it in a little bit too. Great question.
Very good.
All righty.
I have a few things I want to share to wrap up. Again, Hallie's information is right here at the bottom, her website, and an email information. If you want to follow up with her directly, we will be sharing the full recording on hornfrogsconnect.com. And I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to take over Hallie. I'm going to share a couple of resources with everybody. This guy is one of them, but let me back up over here to hornfrogsconnect.com. If you haven't had a chance to join us on hornfrogsconnect.com, this is our alumni TCU community networking, professional networking space. We have thousands of alumni who are already connecting. We have faculty and staff who have just joined us this fall, as well as students. And so this is an exciting time to get on the platform. We have a Horned Frog Business Directory, job listings, great ways to connect with people across industry levels or different areas. If you're kind of looking to connect with somebody in your former school or college, great ways to make connections here on hornedfrogsconnect.com.
And Brooke, I've got to run because I've got a 2 o'clock. So
Wonderful.
I just wanted to say
thank
bye
you,
to
Hallie,
everyone.
so much. We so appreciate your time, and she'll be back in January for another presentation. Thank you, Hallie. And I'm going to share one quick note before we sign off for the day. This is Terrence Hood. He is actually our Associate Director of Alumni and Student Athletes. He's one of our best kept secrets. If you haven't heard about him yet, Terrence is devoted to helping alumni with any point during their career, whether it's changing careers, brushing up that resume, you're ready for that next step, or you're looking to develop search strategies if you've lost a job and you're looking for a new position. To schedule an appointment with Terrence, you're going to visit careers.tcu.edu/frogjobs, and you can pick your appointment time right there. Terrence is a wonderful resource to all of our alumni for free. And we really appreciate everyone being here with us today. We hope that you enjoyed your time with us. And I'm Brooke Schumann. I'm with the Alumni Office, and we're so thankful to have you. Go Frogs!